Okay, so with this project, we're going to rig this robot arm thing, which you should be making yourself. So first we're going to go to add armature, and that'll create a bone. Now it's going to create a bone right here, and it's going to be inside of our object. So what we need to do is, if I go into wireframe, you can see it there. What we need to do is click on this object data properties right here. It's a little stick figure, and you're going to go to viewport display and then select in front. And when I go back into solid view, you'll be able to see the bone in front of the mesh. Now I'm going to go into edit mode on the bone, and I can move this up to extend up here. And with the tip of this selected, I can press E to extrude, and I want to move it to the center of this object. Press E to extrude, center of this object. So now I have these fingers, and what I want to do is press E to extrude and go down to the fingers. And I can come back up here again and E to extrude and go down the fingers. So I go into pose mode. Now I can move these things. I can rotate them and they will move the other bones. You'll want to name these something that you'll know what they are, because right now we just have bone 001, bone 002, bone 003, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So we can call this one like base arm, this one middle arm. So what you'll do is you'll press F2 to rename them. Select the bone, press F2 to rename it, and then end bone. And we can name these ones like finger dot, or so let's go top finger dot left. So L. This one will be top finger dot R for right, and bottom finger dot right, and bottom finger dot L. Okay, so now these are named. That'll come up later. To attach these objects to this bone, we're going to go into object mode. You can press Control Tab to go in and out of pose mode, and Tab to go into edit mode. So I'm going to select the bones that I want to have attached to a specific bone. So I'm going to select those and then Shift select the armature, go into pose mode with Control Tab, or you can click up here. Select the bone you want to attach them to, press Control P, think of it as controlling parent, Control P, select bone. So now when I move this bone, it's going to move those objects. So I'm just going to go back into object mode, and I'm going to do the same thing with these. Control P, bone, rotate those now. Okay, and then I've got these bones, attach them to that one, Control P, and go back into object mode, select the fingers, that finger, Control P, back into object mode, select these ones, and so on. All right, so let's just check this out in pose mode. So I move these bones, it moves that, move the finger, moves the finger. Okay, perfect. Now what we're going to do, so right now this is called an FK, or forward kinematics rig, meaning that you have to move each bone individually. So we're going to change it to an IK rig so that we can move one bone and it'll control the whole arm. So I'm going to go into pose mode. I'm going to select this bone here. That'll be the chain where it starts. I'm going to go to object, or bone constraints rather, bone constraints, and click on add bone constraint. And we're going to add an inverse kinematics bone constraint. Now by default, this is what it's going to do. I can move that bone. But let's say I want to have a bone to control that bone, make it a little bit easier. What I'm going to do is go into edit mode, and I'm going to just click on the tip of this, and I'm going to extrude it out so we have a bone here. Now this part's really important. If you don't do this, then it's going to screw up your IK rig. We need to unparent this bone. So we press Alt P and clear parent. Alt P. So now I go back into pose mode, and let's rename this bone. I'll call it IK, F2 to rename. So I'm going to select this bone again with the IK constraint, select the target armature, and then I'm going to select the bone. You just click on that and you can type in IK. And now when I move this bone, it's going to move the rest. If I want to attach these fingers to this one so I can rotate like kind of like a hand, I could go into edit mode, select the bones that I want to be attached. So like these two will be the children, and then the parent will be last. Control P for parent, we'll keep offset. Now I go into pose mode. So if I were to rotate that, it's going to rotate the fingers. And it's also going to move this like that. Okay, the next thing we want to do, go into edit mode, and we're just going to create a new bone. You can do Shift A to add a new bone, and it's inside here. So we'll just move that out. Okay, this will be our pull target. So basically, if we want to rotate the way the elbow is kind of pointing to, we're going to have a pull target. So I'm going to go back into pose mode, select the IK bone here, pull target. I'm going to select the armature, and then I'm going to choose the bone that I want to do. This one is just called bone, and it'll flip around. So we need to change the pull angle. We're going to click on that and type 180. If it flips, you might need to change it to whatever works for you, but it might just be 180. So now if I move this bone, it's going to move the arm, like the pivot of the arm towards that. So if I were to move this now, it's going to make sure that it always points towards that pull bone that we created. Okay, next thing we're going to cover is how to change the look of these bones. You can change the bones to look like any object. So if I go to add mesh in object mode, and let's create just like a circle. Okay, so I got the circle object here. Let's move that off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and go into pose mode on the bones, and I'm going to select the bone I want to change. I'm going to click the bone properties icon here in the properties window, and I'm going to go to viewport display and select custom object. So I'm just going to click this eyedropper and select the circle there. And now I've got a circle instead of a bone, and we can change the scale of this and the rotation and the position. So I can just go to the y-axis, type 90, and it's there, but that's too big, so I want to change the scale of it. Now, I can do each of these individually, which is kind of a pain because I want to scale it all down at the same time. So what you do is if you want to change all the values in a row, you just click and hold and drag down, and then you can move to the left and right. If you hold shift, you'll get a smoother motion, so it's not so drastic when you're changing it. If I want to change the visibility, like I don't need to see these bones here. So if I want to change the visibility of that, I just select those bones, press M, and then we'll do a new bone collection, and let's call this hidden, and we'll move that to that. To see these, you're going to go to the data properties, object data properties, and you can see this layer here, and we're going to turn off the visibility by clicking this eyedropper. So now I can move that around, and my object, I don't have bones that I don't need to animate. They can just be hidden. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to create an object for this thing to pick up. So I'll just do them like the monkey head. And I'll just scale that to something like that, maybe. Okay, it's going to pick up this object. And we also need to create a bone for it. So I'm going to create a new armature. Let's move that over to the monkey head. And I'm just going to select the monkey head, then the bone. We don't need to go to pose mode because there's only one bone. So I'm just going to do Control P, select the bone. So now I have a bone to control this monkey. There's an add-on on Canvas that you'll need to download. It's called Dynamic Parent. You'll find the Dynamic Parent add-on in the resources on the front page or in the modules. Go ahead and download that. Then make your way back to Blender. You're going to go to Edit, Preferences, Then under add-ons, you're going to click this little drop down. You're going to click install from disk and then go find your file. There's Dynamic Parent. Okay, it's turned on. Go ahead and close that. Press N to open and close your N panel, and you'll see this Dynamic Parent object or option here. So the way it works, you're going to animate this object moving and picking up this thing here. Okay. And then we'll animate the fingers as well. Let's see, let's go back to the beginning, set my keyframes. Okay. All right, so once you've made your animation to pick it up, it's like it's picking it up. On the frame that you want it to pick it up, you're going to select an object to control it. So in this case, I might just select a finger just to make it easier. And then I will select this object or the bone on the monkey object, but we do have to be on pose mode on both of them. So I'm going to select this bone and this armature here. I'm going to go into pose mode. Then I'm going to select the parent first and then the child. So it's backwards of normal parenting because we're putting on a bone constraint on the child with this add-on. It just makes it quicker for us. So we're going to select the parent, then the child, and then you're going to click create. And you can see in the timeline, it created two keyframes and this bone constraint on the child. So the influence is 1 when it's connected and it's 0 when it's off. So you can see those two are, so it's off and then it's on. Then I will animate the arm moving it. Okay, so it picks it up, moves with it. And then I'm going to drop it by selecting the monkey bone. And I'm going to click disable in the dynamic parent. So it created 2 keyframes again. You can see it on, then it off, on, off. And now I can animate the fingers opening up. That, keyframe it. Okay, so you see there I had my animation opening before it should have. Just going to drop it. Then I can animate the monkey head. Falling down. Picks it up, drops it. And that's all there is to this assignment.